Hiya! Welcome! This is the last records roundup of 2024. Thank you very much for joining me, and thank you if you've joined me for any or all of the others throughout this past 12 months. Before I get going with showing you what's in today's edition, just want to let people know that my annual Discogs chart will be up on my channel in a few days' time. A video I really enjoy making every year. This year it's been extended from a top 30 to a top 40. If you've never seen it before, basically it's a ranking of my most valuable record and music collection items according to the Discogs median value. So look out for that one in a few days' time. But let's get cracking straight away with what I've got to show you in Records Roundup 78, and not only will I end with a mail opening, I'll start with one as well. This is something that came today. Do not bend. This came from Resident Records in Brighton. I had to think for a moment then. I use so many different record shops and websites. I sometimes lose track of what they're called and where they're located. It doesn't really matter where they're located as long as they deliver to my address. Anyway, let's get into this. This was a pre-order. Can't remember the price. I pre-ordered it back in, I think this might have been October, and it came out, well, today, the day I'm recording this. I think it was delayed by a week for some reason, and they didn't say why. But what we have is the 4K Ultra HD Blu-ray of the Ghost film Right Here, Right Now. The first 4K Blu-ray I've bought in a long time, and it's a film that is obviously music related. It's based on a band, hence why I'm showing it in this video. I got the soundtrack to this some months ago. That came out around the time the film was in cinemas. It got a limited, I think, cinema release here in the UK, and by all accounts it was a good film. I've not seen it yet. I didn't go to the cinema to see it, so when I put this 4K on, this will be the first time that I've watched it. But it got good reviews. It's like a concert film, but there's some kind of narrative surrounding the ghost lore involved as well. I can't really speak too much on it. There is some bump on the back that may go into some more details, but I've not got my glasses on and they're way over there, so I'm not even going to attempt to read that. But yep, looking forward to that. The first Ghost film, the Swedish metal band of course, Right Here, Right Now. In a similar vein, as in it's something to watch as opposed to just listen to, is another one for the Pet Shop Boys DVD collection. And this one is the documentary A Life in Pop. So I bought a few of the Pet Shop Boys live concert DVDs recently. I think I showed 3 of them in the last Records Roundup and then another one previously. And really, as far as Pet Shop Boys live concerts on DVD and or Blu-ray is concerned, I think I'm up to date on those now. But this kept catching my eye when I was looking through the video section on Pet Shop Boys Discogs page. I thought, you know what, I do like this documentary. I have seen it before. It's been some years because I think it originally came out, I want to say 2006. It says on screen. And it was originally broadcast on Channel 4. And it was a pretty good documentary. I wouldn't have said it was overly thorough, but when it's, what, maybe an hour and a half tops, I'm trying to find a running length and I can't. I'm not sure about the extras on here. This is from eBay, by the way. Some horrible sticker residue there that I might try and shift. It's got a little bit of a booklet. Nothing really else to say about that other than this kind of brings me up to date on the Pet Shop Boys on DVD. It's not a concert, it's a documentary, but I know it does have some clips, and I think the extras are some particular live performances that I probably don't already own. There we go, Pet Shop Boys A Life in Pop. That's it for the DVDs and Blu-rays. Now onto the vinyl. I think it's all vinyl left to come now. And a couple of 7-inch singles, both of which are promos and both of which are by New Order. This one is from Vinyl Tap and it's the 7-inch promo for Thieves Like Us. So this came out in 1984, limited to a few thousand copies because this is technically only a promo and it never got an official full release as a 7-inch, only as a 12-inch. I do own the reissue 12-inch of Thieves Like Us, but I quite fancied having a 7-inch copy, and the promo, the UK promo, it's on the factory label, was the best way to go, really. Not exactly cheap, this. It was about 30 something, and I might have been able to get it a little bit cheaper from Discogs, but I like Vinyl Tap. They're always really efficient. The prices are competitive, so I may not have saved much money, if any, trying to get it on Discogs, especially with some of the sellers being internationally based anyway. Nothing really to look at. It's a 7-inch single in a generic sleeve. But I thought, as it had been a while since I'd got a strict New Order 7-inch, I would just add a couple of promo singles to the collection, ones that didn't come out officially on 7-inch in the first place. From Vinyl Tap, Thieves Like Us, and from Discogs, Run 2. So this also came out officially 12-inch only, but there was limited promo copies on 7-inch. Although the 12-inch was relatively limited. I think that was maybe 20,000 in total. Run 2 on side A and MTO on side B. That's about all I can really say about it. Great song, love Run, but it's from my all-time favourite album by anyone, Technique, so I'm bound to love what comes off there. 2 New Order promo 7-inches. Now to the albums. The next two are a couple from a seller on Discogs, and the second one I'll show you is an impulse purchase. The first one, the one I'll show you now, was one that I added to my basket, but I couldn't check out on it because my order wasn't at the minimum amount. Some sellers on Discogs do that. I kind of get it, but it can be a bit annoying. Unfortunately, it doesn't seem to happen too often to me. But sometimes you have to spend a certain amount before you can get anything sent, so I did have to add something that I wouldn't probably have normally got. But the thing that I definitely wanted from this seller, and he was the only seller in the UK, be it on Discogs, eBay or anywhere else to the best of my knowledge who had it, was the 1992 Ofra studio album. Now this one is called Kyria. There again, probably butchering the pronunciation of that, but this was Ofra whatever studio album in a chronology it would have been. I'm not entirely sure, because I'm not sure how many of the Israeli language stuff that she did in the 1980s you're really supposed to count in that. But I've been collecting Ofra a lot lately, as regular viewers to Records Roundup will attest to. This one has a special purchase $3.99 sticker on it. I paid more than that. For this I would have paid, it wasn't too bad I don't think. I think it was maybe around 15, which I thought was fairly reasonable, and the only other sellers of this were international, and they were charging a lot, and there'd be a lot in international postage and taxes to pay as well. Nothing really to look at. There's no custom inner, and it is just on black vinyl. This was the final Ofra album that came out on vinyl until Music on Vinyl, the Dutch record label who specialise in reissues, re-released her eponymous album that would have been her final album that she ever recorded before her passing. And I did show that back when I bought it, what, a year and a half, 2 years ago. Great singer, beautiful lady, taken too soon. Will I get any more Ofra because it's really only the 1980s, in fact there might even be a bit of very late 70s in her discography, but there's only really the Israeli language stuff, and I don't dislike that. I do have one album which was kind of a thing I added to my basket because I was adding things from a seller anyway, but I'm glad I got it, so I might try and look for some of those cheap. So this probably won't be the last Ofra album that you see me show on the channel, but this was the only other one that I really wanted right now because it was sort of, you know, her 1990s period. Anyway, that is Kia by Ms. Ofra.
For her family's shame, she had to face the judge's might. Now she was with child. No one was at her side when the judge declared she must die. Tradition.
Now then, the next album from the same seller, I couldn't check out. It wouldn't let me have the Ofra LP until I'd added something else and got my order up to, it might have been a minimum of 20 possibly. I mean, with the Ofra LP and this, I ended up spending more than 20. I think the total was probably about 35 at least. This one, I kind of trialled it a little bit on YouTube, played a few of the tracks on here, because I have got albums by this artist, but this one's a bit of a different proposition. And I just thought, you know what, it's a reissue, not brand new, it's been opened, so presumably it's been played at least once, but in near mint condition, I think it was listed as. And it's an album from Serge Gainsbourg, but it's actually an instrumental soundtrack album from the film Je t'aime, moi non plus. So that was a film that came out in the mid-70s, I think. It starred his then partner Jane Birkin, who of course he recorded the 1969 Je t'aime, moi non plus duet with, which I do have that 7-inch single and one of my all-time favourite singles. It's just an absolute stone cold classic, that single. Never seen this film. It's going to be a French language film. Interestingly, the movie features a fairly early role for Gerard Depardieu. Well, I found it interesting anyway. But it's instrumental, this, I think, all the way through, if not for the most part. And it's got different versions of Je t'aime on it as well. Hopefully I'll be able to play you a section of one that was played just by Serge on the organ in a moment. And some of the other tracks I listened to, I just kind of liked the sort of smoky, seedy French cinema feel to it. It was a very atmospheric thing to listen to. So I just listened to maybe 3 or 4 of the tracks on here, and I thought, you know what, I'm going to add that to my basket because I want the Ofra album. There wasn't really anything else the seller had that I was desperate for. This seemed a good one. I've got a couple of Serge Gainsbourg albums from the 1980s. I bought those, oh god, maybe getting on for 3 years ago. Good albums. I do like Serge Gainsbourg. I consider myself a fan, but I think collecting him full on would be kind of a rabbit hole, because not only is there his proper studio albums, there's ones like this that are soundtracks that aren't necessarily part of his studio canon. And then there's many compilations as well, so it's a rabbit hole I don't really want to go down, but I liked the idea of this and I like the sound of what I heard. It's a Back to Black reissue as well, fairly, I was going to say old reissue, 2008ish I think it might say on screen, which to me isn't that old. That was like 5 minutes ago, but it's not a new reissue. Certainly predates the so-called vinyl revival anyway. But there we go. Something from Serge, Je t'aime, moi non plus, Ballade de Johnny Jane. Another album from a different Discogs seller based in the UK. And this album, I've been thinking about pulling the trigger on it for ages. It wasn't massively expensive, maybe for how much is on it, because I think it's either 6 or 8 tracks on it. Yeah, just 6 tracks on it, but it is an album technically. I thought maybe it's a little bit overpriced. I did try and buy this at Banquet Records. God, it must be getting on for a couple of years ago. And with Banquet, you order something, but it gives you a warning that it might be out of stock. But the trouble with them is, and it's the reason why I don't tend to use them hardly anymore, they don't necessarily email you to tell you and then to give you a refund. So you've got to kind of just wait and then chase them up, and then eventually they'll reply to you and say, no, it's not in stock, here's a refund. And that happened to me maybe 3 times from Banquet, trying to order various stuff. And this album's been impossible to find everywhere else except for on Discogs. It is King of Bhangra by Malkit Singh. So Malkit Singh is apparently a Guinness World Record holder as the world's most successful Bhangra artist. And he's a Birmingham native, raised in the West Midlands, if not born over on the Indian subcontinent. I love Bhangra so much. I mean, I don't really like to rank my favourite music genres because it depends what mood I'm in on the day, really. And I've got so many different favourites that I'm not going to stand here and start listing them all. But Bhangra is one that I just would love to collect more on vinyl. And yes, there's tons of Bollywood soundtracks out there, and I know some of those I would really enjoy, but it's a case of knowing where to start, really. Whereas this album, I'd heard about it, like I say, probably over 2 years ago now, and I'd never pulled the trigger on it because I thought maybe it's a little bit overpriced for what it is, but it's a nice proposition. This one is new and sealed, it's got an Obi strip. I think the record label, which is interestingly called Shellac Disc, is actually a Spanish label. But all the text seems to be in English and probably a little bit of Punjabi as well somewhere, I'd have thought. It's finally some Bhangra into my collection. I say finally, I've got a couple of compilations that have what I would say maybe not proper Bhangra, which to me is Indian dance pop, but certainly Indian music, Punjabi music. It's a genre that is sorely underrepresented, not just in the vinyl community, but just from record shops generally. If more people got into this stuff, then maybe more record shops would start stocking it, but it's just so difficult for me to get any. If you know of anywhere that's like a Bhangra or Indian music specialist that you can recommend to me, in the UK preferably, but I would be willing to purchase internationally if the rates were reasonable. But if you know of anywhere, please let me know. Get in touch with me via the comments or social media or whatever, because I would love to build up a really extensive Bhangra collection, because there's so much out there and it's all fantastic, but there's not much on vinyl that I can see. There's the Bollywood soundtracks, and I might take a punt on a random one at some point, you never know. With this guy, I knew he was quite a well-known figure in the Bhangra scene. Malkit Singh, his compilation, I think this is technically classed as King of Bhangra. On now to pick up that I made in store, in person at Tallbird Records, my local record shop in Chesterfield. And I bought this on the same day that I got the Faulty Towers for the Record 6 LP box set that I unboxed on the channel a couple of weeks or more back. Please go and check that out if you haven't seen it yet. And what would have been 10% off almost everything in store. I actually got a more than 10% discount off the Fawlty Towers set, but I explain more about that in that video. But I got 10% off the sticker price of this album as well. It's one from this year's National Album Day, and it was one of my definite maybes. And it was the eponymous debut from the Utah Saints. So the only NAD 24 album that I got was the reissue of Out of Nothing by Embrace. But this one was kind of like second place, really. I just thought, do I really want to pull the trigger on it at full price? I'll wait to see if it goes down over the next few weeks or months anyway. And I saw it in Tallbird in their dance section. I saw $34.99, and then I remembered there's 10% off, so it'll take it down to what, about £31.50. I thought, yeah, I'm supporting my local record store here. Ideally, I would have liked to have waited and got this for under 30, well under 30 from somewhere, but in for a penny, in for a pound. I was buying the Fawlty Towers set. I don't get to Tallbird Records that often, so I'll buy it and I'll get it in person today. So Something Good is obviously the big single on here, but there was a couple of other pretty successful singles like What Can You Do For Me and Believe In Me, I think was a single as well. The second disc, and this is black vinyl by the way, so I'm not going to get it out, is mixes that I don't think were included on the original album's release back in 1992. And I do like this sort of foil style, which is probably reflecting all sorts here as I'm doing that, but the nice holographic, or metallic I should say, sleeve. There we go, Utah Saints. It's classed as an anniversary edition, but 30th anniversary. I don't think it was as late as 1994 that this came out. It'll say on screen when the original release was, but I think it's at least 31 years, if not 32 by now. But nonetheless, really happy to have Utah Saints. Next pickup is from Rare Vinyl. Now, I bought a couple of New Order related items. It was a Black Friday promotion. It was 15% off everything as long as you had at least 3 items in your basket. So this was actually the first item that I put in. I just saw that they had it for what looked a good price. The normal price was $29.99, new and sealed. And with 15% off, that takes it down to what, a little bit over 25. And I thought for the 2LP Legend Extended by Clannad, that was a pretty good deal. So I do already have this album, but I figure this is going to be a good upgrade really. I'm a Clannad fan, I'm a Clannad collector. Basically completed their studio album chronology probably earlier this year actually, because there's a few holes on CD only that weren't out on vinyl that I managed to plug, and then everything else I've managed to get on vinyl over the past few years. Let me get this out of this external sleeve here. Probably not going to open it anymore because it is just black vinyl, but I don't tend to save those low quality outer sleeves anyway. Massive hype sticker on it. Special 40th anniversary 2LP edition. Of course, Legend was the soundtrack for the Robin of Sherwood ITV series in the mid-80s, but this edition has previously unreleased tracks on the second disc. So my other Legend album, which is an original pressing or thereabouts, I think, as I don't double up on Clannad, I've got no reason to, I'll send that out as a VCLT at some point to somebody. First time I've bought Clannad, particularly on LP, in quite some time, and this did catch my eye when it was announced earlier this year. I kind of dithered, and I'm glad I dithered in this case, because I think for around just over 25, brand new and sealed, that was a pretty good deal. Clannad, the extended 40th anniversary of Legend. Next up is Saint Etienne's annual Christmas release, although this is like a Christmas release that became a general release, so they've done things a little bit differently this year. Certainly since I've been collecting vinyl properly again, I've been getting Saint Etienne's Christmas issues on vinyl, and often you get some sort of freebie with them as well. This one is their new album, The Night, but they are classing this as a proper studio album because it has had a general release now. This is one of the Saint Etienne store exclusive versions before it got a proper general release, so this is kind of like the Christmas release, but if I'd waited I could have got it, albeit in a different colour vinyl format from most other places. Always happy to get new Saint Etienne. Is it a little bit disappointing that there isn't like a standalone Christmas reissue of anything or some sort of new fan exclusive thing? Maybe, but it's not as bad as it sounds, because if anyone who ordered this particular edition of the album The Night at the Saint Etienne shop did get this bonus CD, which is Deep Into the Night, which has got 6 tracks on it, and as you can see I've not listened to this yet or this, but it's got 6 tracks that presumably wouldn't fit on this album itself. I will get this open though, because this is on some sort of colour, I think I remember, but I won't say just in case I was wrong. There's your inner, nice and glossy this. And yeah, it's a sort of translucent Coke bottle green. Coke bottle green's getting to be a really popular vinyl colour, isn't it? 2 things really from Saint Etienne. New studio album, although I've got a feeling they're working on yet another studio album, one that'll be generally available to everyone from Dot. Sort of a Christmas fan release, but also a sort of stopgap studio album, if nothing else. The Night, with the bonus Deep Into the Night extended EP.
I could see her through the trees at half light. Think I heard her whisper to me at half light.
Next 2 albums are also from the artist's own web store, based in Switzerland, I think, because the artist is Swiss. The web store might actually be based in Germany, but I'm not sure. Anyway, It's the 30th anniversary edition of DJ Bobo's second album, There Is a Party. Now, it's Eurodance. I have talked a little bit about DJ Bobo in previous videos, not particularly recently. Seems like his record company is starting to reissue his older stuff as it sort of reaches a milestone anniversary. And I bought his first album, Somebody Dance With Me, I think that is. When that had an anniversary reissue, was that last year or the year before? It doesn't seem too long ago. And I've also got his latest greatest hits, which I think's on 4LP, which came out a few years ago now. So I decided to get this from his official store, as nowhere else seemed to have it in stock just yet. I think HHV in Germany, for one, were due to get it in, and I might have got it a little bit cheaper there, if anything, because of their cheaper postage, but I decided I'd get it from the DJ Bobo store itself. I'm familiar with the singles on here, and that's about it. Not really much else I can say about that, and then this won't be to everyone's taste, so I'll move on fairly quickly.
And I'm doing it fast. Here is the question: are you ready to dance? When you hear my rock rhymes, you will take your chance. There's a party. Don't you know today there is a party? Open up your heart, we're gonna start it. Welcome at the beach, this is for you, just for you. There's a party. Don't you know today there is a party? Open up your heart, we're gonna start it. Welcome at the beach, this is for you, just for you.
But only moving on to the latest studio album from DJ Bobo. Now, I had been thinking about getting this for ages. This came out, I think, before his fairly recent greatest hits. I just wanted his greatest hits at that point. I wasn't really going to collect DJ Bobo's studio albums, but when I got his first album reissued and then I decided I wanted his second one, I thought, you know what, I'll get this one as well. Unfortunately, the previous studio album he recorded, Collider Luna, which would have come out a couple of years or so before this, that was up on his web store quite some time ago on vinyl, and it's not now. So it's been deleted because all the prices on the aftermarket are ridiculous. So I think I've kind of missed the boat on that. But this one's still widely available and for a decent price. I can't remember the total price of this order. So there we go. That's all I can say about that one. Evolution, or Evolution, however you want to say it, from the always cheesy DJ Bobo. Penultimate item now is what I would say is technically an EP rather than an album. This was from Resident in Brighton, who I mentioned earlier, where I got the Ghost Right Here Right Now 4K from. This was the one Record Store Day Black Friday purchase that I wanted to make, and it is the John Peel sessions from Laibach. So it feels a while since I've bought any Laibach and I've added any to my collection. I've got loads. I've got all their albums. The ones that weren't out on vinyl I have got on CD, which I think's only maybe a couple, but I've got a couple of compilations as well on CD. So I do kind of go all in on Laibach. They're just one of my very favourite acts. So when this was announced for RSD Black Friday, it was a no-brainer. I did go into Tallbird, as I said earlier, on Black Friday, but I didn't go particularly early. It was in the afternoon by the time I got there, and they did have one copy of this, but they'd sold it earlier on in the morning, so it wasn't too much of a hardship because I knew I could order it the following morning from somewhere online, and I decided I would order it from Resident. 3 tracks on each side. I'm not even going to try and pronounce some of those, but one of them is their cover of Life is Life. Great stuff there. Before I move on to the mail opening though, I do want to look at the vinyl for this. It'll be on the Mute label, by the way. And the Peel sessions in question were recorded from 1986 to 1987. So the vinyl is classed as statuesque marble coloured vinyl. Oh, it's got some nice liner notes on the inner sleeve there. And let's check this out. Yeah, that's really nice. So kind of like a marbly stone style disc, really. You could call it white with grey and black spatter if you must. But yeah, works well. Works for me. Fantastic. Laibach and Peel sessions. Mail opening to do now. This came today. It's out today. It's from Mute Bank, the online web store. Of course it's online if it's a web store. It's kind of like over-egging the phrase there, but you know what I mean. It's from Mute Records online shop. This has been a pre-order that I made. Oh, this has been pre-ordered since probably about October as well. And it is Opus Dei Revisited by Laibach. I've been really looking forward to hearing this. So Opus Dei Revisited is a new recording of an old album, and Laibach have got a little bit of history for this, because in their Laibach Revisited box set, which is an item I've had for a few years now, very expensive, but it's a really, really top-notch box set. They had the original album remastered in it, and then they had a re-recording of the original self-titled debut album, Laibach, among many other things. And although they've not done it, thankfully, in an elaborate box set kind of situation, they have re-recorded and issued a new version of their Opus Dei album, which would have been probably their third or fourth studio album from around 1987, I think. So the first disc, it's a 2-disc of this, has got the new version of Opus Dei, and the second disc is remixes from, I can't remember his name, I think it might say on screen, but the original producer who's gone back to remix the tracks as well. I'm going to have some fun getting stuck into these two Laibach discs over the coming weeks, the Peel sessions and Opus Dei Revisited. By the way, Opus Dei, it did get a remastered reissue, maybe it was either just under or just over a year ago, and I thought about upgrading my copy because I've got an original 87 pressing, but I decided against it. I'm happy enough with my original, even though generally I do prefer remasters and reissues. But when it was announced that they'd re-recorded the album and it's going to sound markedly different, then had to have it for the collection. Opus Dei, the sequel. It's not really a sequel, but whatever.
Wann immer wir Kraft geben, geben wir das Beste, all unser Können, unser Streben, denken nicht am Feste, und die Kraft bekommen alle, wir bekommen nur das Beste, wenn jeder Mann auch alles gibt, will jeder alles kriegen.
And there we have it. Records Roundup number 78 is done and dusted, and the series as a whole for 2024. But as you know, we're only a matter of days away from 2025, so I expect Records Roundup 79, wow, will be along fairly promptly into the new year. We'll see how things go relating to releases and spending money, etc. But thank you all for watching. Special thanks go to my subscribers and my generous patrons, of course. I'm going to go now. Lots to listen to. Hope you have a very, very happy new year. A prosperous 2025. And I wish you all a lot of peace and love throughout the coming weeks, months, and indeed years. And on that rather hippy-dippy bombshell, I shall say my goodbye and ask that you join me again next time for the next Records Roundup and the next music collecting video. Cheers, everyone. See ya.